The Angels showed a little bit of life offensively, but it didn't matter one bit. A brutal Davis Daniels start sinks our halos in another big 5-run defeat. We'll talk about all of it on another edition of the Locked On Angels Postcast.
You are Locked On Angels Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Los Angeles, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, Halo Nation. Hello, Halo hopefuls, and welcome to the latest edition of the Locked On Angels Postcast, coming at you live, as always, after every single game. Not some games, every single game, here on the Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel, and after the fact, wherever you get the Locked On Angels daily podcast feed. I'm your host, Gavin Carlson. As always, I spent 4 years as a credentialed journalist in the LA area. I wrote a bunch of articles, conducted a bunch of interviews, hosted podcasts, was in the press boxes or courtside at all your favorite games in LA. I've put the time in, and of course, I'm now part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And of course, I'm the postcast host for one of the worst teams in all of Major League Baseball. Our Angels lose again. What's with these 5-run deficits? We had multiple 3-5-0 losses in the previous 5 games, and now another 5-run loss. This time, not a shutout. The Angels show a little bit of life offensively, mainly 3 runs in the second inning, but it didn't matter one bit in a 9-4 loss to open up the series against the Texas Rangers, because Davis Daniels, who has shown glimpses of greatness in at least his debut start, and then showed not so much greatness in his previous start, and boy, an absolute brutal outing today, giving up 7 runs, 8 hits in just 3 2/3 innings, and that really set the Angels back this entire game. Before we jump into it all, shout out to everybody in here. I see Jeff, I see Anaheim Angel, I see Daniel Barry, and others. Appreciate you guys for always being in here after every game, during every postcast, the same way I am always here during every postcast after every single game. So shout out to all of you. Please, please, please. I have really appreciated the support as of late. Leave a like. Leave a comment. Let me know. The question of the day, Jeff, you get to be the question of the day. He says, will we lose 100 games this year? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Leave a like, please. It helps so much. I don't think you guys realize how much it helps me, how much it helps the Angels community if you leave a like on the video. And of course, subscribe if you have not already. Before we jump in, today's show is brought to you by Tax Network USA. Did you know it's never too late to resolve your tax issues with the IRS? Don't wait. Reduce your tax debt and get help from a team of licensed tax professionals. Call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. With all that being said, on today's show, we will talk about okay offensive performance. We'll talk about Anthony Rendon making his long-awaited, I mean, that's debatable, but his long absence finally ends with a pretty average pedestrian start in the leadoff spot. But of course, we're going to open up today talking about Davis Daniels, because like I said, there was some hope for this guy. He had an unbelievable first start. If you don't remember, I raved about him in my postcast about his first start. It came, here's the key, it came against the Oakland A's. No, excuse me. No, it didn't. It came against the Detroit Tigers on June 27th, where he pitched 8 innings of 4-hit, shutout, 8-strikeout baseball. About as good of a debut as a starter as you can have. Once again, 8 innings pitched, just 4 hits, 8 strikeouts, no runs against the Tigers. Of course, not a great lineup, but still was very impressed not only with the outcomes, but the way he was getting to that success. Just painting the corners with that fastball, mixing in a nice curveball that comes in way slower. He doesn't throw gas at all, just throws around 92 miles an hour on the 4-seam, but that curveball can be slowed down to 74. He has a slider in the mid-80s. He was great at locating his stuff. He was great at just throwing strikes, getting ahead of counts. We know that's what Ron Washington wants, and it was very successful in that start against the Tigers. Not so much in his second start, July 3rd, against the A's, just 5 1/3, 7 hits, 4 earned runs, 5 runs total, gave up 2 home runs, and just 3 strikeouts. But today we saw what really happens when a guy who does not have spectacular stuff and just throws strikes, this is what should happen. And there's a spectrum of Angels pitchers. I think I've said it before. We know Ron Washington wants his starters to throw strikes. That's why Davis Daniel was called up and put in this situation multiple times now to be a starter. That's why Jose Soriano has been embraced. That's why Tyler Anderson today, being interviewed on the Angels broadcast, was talking about Ron Washington saying, I don't care if your stuff is amazing. I don't care if you throw 100 miles an hour. Can you throw strikes? Can you force weak contact? And can you let our defense do the job? That's Ron Washington's brand of baseball. And it helps a guy like Davis Daniel, who does not have crazy stuff, who just throws strikes, who tries to locate well, who tries to force weak contact. This is the type of pitcher Ron Washington can live with. But like I said, there is a spectrum of success and failure within this strategy. And even on the Angels staff, there's a spectrum. Of course, Tyler Anderson is as far to the success side as you can have. He's got a sub-3 ERA. He has one of the best changeups in the game that not only is a great strikeout pitch, 10 strikeouts in the last outing, but is also just a great double play pitch, a great ground ball forcer, a great weak contact forcer. Mixes in a nice fastball, able to move the eye level. He's, as successful as you can get in not having crazy stuff. He doesn't throw over 95 on the fastball, but he's successful. A guy who's probably in the middle right now because he's had great starts and awful starts, but a guy who I still have a lot of faith in is Jose Soriano. Another guy who throws strikes. You hear me say it so much. And what makes it successful for him, he doesn't have amazing wicked control, wicked stuff right now. Or variety of pitches. He actually is the complete other brand than Tyler Anderson. He's a guy that throws 97. He's a guy who has the more traditional 2024 starting pitcher who, has the same pitch repertoire as a closer. Throw a hard fastball, throw a hard sinker, mix in a nice splitter or slider or something like that, and just blindly throw balls in the zone. The sinker, even if it's in the zone, it's hard to square it up because it obviously breaks an inch or two. The changeup, the splitter, whatever you want to call it. The fastball is obviously really fast. He's a guy who can blindly throw pitches. For him, his issue is just longevity. Jose Soriano is not a starter yet. He's getting there. He's certainly getting there. It's longevity. It's avoiding the really bad pitches because the control is not all the way there. So you have a Tyler Anderson who's as successful as it comes in this throw strikes blindly strategy because he's got great stuff and great control. Jose Soriano, great stuff, controls, but it's good enough most of the times. And then you have Davis Daniel, who is looked like he was kind of in the middle, but now I think he's as close to the Zach Plesac level of this, of if you blindly throw strikes, but your stuff is just not good, it becomes batting practice. And that is what we saw today. It took me a really long time to get to that point, but that's what we saw today. We saw Davis Daniel, who just throws a 92-mile-an-hour fastball, who, yes, he can mix it up with a nice curveball, who, yes, can mix it up with a slider, who, yes, has decent location on that four-seam fastball, he's not crazy wild, he doesn't walk a ton of guys, he didn't walk anybody today, he's only walked one guy in his 3 starts so far. He's throwing strikes, but the problem is if the stuff is not great, it's got to be in the perfect spot, and too many times it was nowhere near the perfect spot. Gives up 2 runs immediately on a 2-run shot from Corey Seager, and this was one of these several times that he tried to elevate a high fastball, and it did not work at all. You can elevate a high fastball if one of 2 things. One of 3 things. 1, if it is above the letters. 2, if it's above 96 miles an hour or something, even if it's not above the letters. If it's right at the letters, if it's around the belt, but it's 97, 98, you get away with it. And the only time 3 is if they have absolutely no idea it's coming. And what happened multiple times this game is that high fastball was not those 3 things. Of course, it's never going to be over 95. The fastball that Seager hits a home run on, just 91.8 miles an hour. So it's slow. That's very slow for a four-seam fastball. So X there. It wasn't above the letters. It was right in that sweet spot, upper half of the zone, a home run location. So 0 for 2. And then third strike, it was not out of nowhere. Sure, you get him to 0 and 2, but Corey Seager's a guy that's an aggressive swinger, and he gets something up, and it wasn't up enough. So he's kind of expecting it to some degree, and boy, does he crush it. 106.9 exit velo, 457 feet, and in a blink of an eye, it's 2-0. In a blink of an eye, when I talk about the offense, I will give the offense its credit because they respond not in the bottom of the first, but in the bottom of the second with 3 runs. And many times we see the Angels fall behind early and they never respond. They never respond. So I'm proud of the offense for responding, at least for 1 inning. But this was Exhibit A, case number 1 of Davis Daniel, not only in this inning with the 2-run shot to Corey Seager, but we'll talk about it later in the 4th, the big inning where he gives up 5 runs. His stuff's just not good enough. For a guy to blindly throw strikes like Jose Soriano, it works because his stuff is great. The location's not great, but the stuff is great. Tyler Anderson's phenomenal because the stuff is solid and the location is very solid. But Davis Daniel is starting to look more like a Zach Plesac who got sent down because he doesn't have amazing stuff and the location is not perfect. It becomes batting practice. Batting practice. And that's what we saw today. So, shout out to a lot of comments in here. Shout out to everybody in here. Really, really appreciate it as always. When we come back from my first break here on the Locked On Angels Postcast, we're going to talk about the rest of the Davis Daniel start, specifically the inning we're all waiting to talk about, unfortunately, that 5-run 4th inning that absolutely killed this game, turned a comeback from the Angels, a brief comeback, into a huge insurmountable deficit. We'll talk about that. We'll get to the offense having an okay game. We'll talk about the return of Anthony Rendon and more after our first break here on the Locked On Angels Postcast. Now, today's show is brought to you by my favorite people at PrizePicks. If you don't know somehow by now, PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because here's the key. Unlike other apps where you're competing against other people, did my lineup do better than his? Did my lineup do better than a million people that were playing at the same time as me? No, it's just you against the numbers. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Look, they have so many great promotions. I already tell you, they have Taco Tuesdays where they lower some stats, make them easier, make your lineups easier to hit on Tuesdays. And then on Fridays, if you fail, you get your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. And there's so many things you can do on PrizePicks. It's not just MLB. It's not just, oh, the NBA and NHL are done. No, it's everything. The Euros, WNBA, of course, baseball, so much more. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, pick more, pick less. It's that easy. And today's show is also brought to you by Tax Network USA. Here on the Locked On Angels Postcast, above all else, but throughout the rest of the amazing Locked On Podcast Network, we pride ourselves on getting you the latest news for your team, whether it's the offseason, the draft, spring training, the playoffs, or right now, it's year-round. But you know what else is year-round? Collection season. Just because the tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming after you for unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. So don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. Like literally, like 2 hours ago in the middle of the game, back when it was a little bit closer, I was sitting down with my mom. We were talking about my resume. I'm applying to a bunch of jobs and stuff. Of course, I'm paying for rent in my apartment in LA that I'll be moving back to shortly. Big adult stuff. I'm trying to, balance some stuff, but I can't do everything. I can't do taxes too. I can focus on my Angels. I can focus on my jobs. I can focus on all this. I can't focus on my taxes too. I need help. I need Tax Network USA, and so do you. So with over 14 years of experience and an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. Whether you owe taxes, have complicated matters that require tax planning, or you finally hit that part of this season, maybe on PrizePicks, and need help correctly filing, call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. And be sure to mention Locked On Angels Postcast at checkout, and you'll receive a $250 discount off their services. Tax Network USA. Back here live on the Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel. This is the Locked On Angels Postcast, and the Angels are right back to their losing ways once again. Another 5-run loss, this time 9-4 to the somewhat struggling, somewhat heating up Texas Rangers, of course, the World Series champs. Of course, there was talk earlier on the broadcast about, oh, is this team selling at the deadline? No, this team is not selling at the deadline. They have an unbelievable roster. If DeGrom is healthy, if Scherzer can be old Max Scherzer, this team can certainly get hot in the playoffs. They're not selling, but you know a team that is selling and better be selling is our Angels. Our Angels now fall all the way to 16 games under 500, right back where they were before that 6-game winning streak, now at 37 and 53. The question of the day, will the Angels lose more than 100 games? Certainly a valid question. At 37 and 53 right now, you've played, what is that, 90 games. You've lost more than 50. So, obviously 90 is not quite halfway through, but just about halfway through. And you have to figure that if they're at this pace right now with the full roster, just wait until a Tyler Anderson gets traded. Just wait until a Taylor Ward maybe gets traded, or a Kevin Pillar maybe gets traded. Just wait until, an Anthony Rendon gets hurt again. Of course, Mike Trout will come back, but one guy is not going to be enough to change the story of this team. So certainly they're on pace to have more than 100 losses, and I think they probably will. Certainly if they play like they did tonight. We'll finish up talking about this Davis Daniels start, then I'll read some of your comments, and then we'll talk about the offensive performance, because the Angels had 8 hits, and 4 runs is not amazing, but based on what we've seen from this offense, it's not terrible. But it didn't matter, because we talked about Davis Daniels giving up a 2-run shot to Corey Seager in the top of the first, but there was a whole lot more in the top of the 4th inning, a 5-run top of the 4th. And it starts with 1 out, giving up a double to Wyatt Langford, who was great. He had a home run off of Carson Fulmer later in this game, but Wyatt Langford doubles one down the line. Then Adolis Garcia, what does he get? He gets another one of those, like I was talking about, high fastball that did not check either of the 3 boxes. Once again, it was slow. This one even slower, 90 miles an hour. Once again, it wasn't above the letters. It was right in the upper half of the zone, right where a guy like Adolis Garcia can crush it. And number 3, it wasn't out of nowhere. He threw 2 sliders. The count's even at 1-1. There's a decent chance you're going to change it up and throw something fast. Adolis Garcia thought that, and I thought that. Adolis Garcia thought that, and he ends up ripping one for a base hit. So now it's 1st and 3rd with nobody out, or with 1 out. And here's the Angel Foolishness play of the game. I need to start patenting that. I need to have a soundbite or something. This is the Angel Foolishness play of the game. What is it this time? 1st and 3rd, 1 out. How about, I'm going to laugh just saying it. How about Davis Daniels stumbling on the pitch and not even getting the pitch off, stumbling, falling over, and then just trying to toss the ball to home plate to make it look like a pitch? It was not. Somehow the umpires had to debate this one for a second. Bruce Bochy looked like he was about to blow a gasket if they didn't call this correctly, but of course they meet and call it a balk like it was. Davis Daniels trips on his shoelace, trips on a banana peel, whatever, and doesn't even get a pitch off. It's a balk. The run scores, and suddenly a 3-2 lead at the time in the 4th inning is now 3-3, and I just had a bad feeling from there. Boy, I did. How was Davis Daniels going to respond? He didn't respond great at all. He keeps throwing strikes, but it killed him in this inning. On 3-2, he has an okay pitch, actually, a down and away fastball, not terrible, but Nathaniel Lowe rips one up the middle on a base hit. It scores Adolis Garcia. It's 4-3 Rangers. But there's a whole lot more, because even after a Jonah Heim strikeout to get it to 2 outs, Travis Janikowski is hit by a pitch. Not helping yourself. If you're a guy who doesn't have electric stuff, you got to be perfect with the location. You cannot hit a guy. That's exactly what he does with a 0-1 curveball, nowhere close at all. And then now, with runners on 1st and 2nd, with 2 outs, you've already had the balk to give up a run. You've already had a single to give up a run. You've already hit a guy. You still have an opportunity to end this inning with a lead. Or not a lead, with a 1-run deficit. But no, Leody Taveras, he singles. I guess there was never really going to be a chance for Joe Adell to get this one. I'm not going to try to criticize him. It falls in front of him. Travis Janikowski gets to 3rd. Nathaniel Lowe scores. And it's 5-3 Rangers. 5-3 Rangers. But there was still more. Taveras steals 2nd. And now Semien is up. Still, it's 5-3. You've already given up 3 runs. But still, you're having an opportunity. Ron Washington being very generous. Giving you a chance to get out of this one. Giving you a chance. And he didn't at all. He did not at all. I don't know about you. I thought he was in too long. I think you already could see this inning had all the boxes checked in terms of time to get this guy out. It had bad pitches for hits. It had bad pitches for hit by pitches. It had a balk. It had everything you need to see to say this guy mentally, physically, he doesn't got it. Get him out. It's not like he's an established pitcher. Ron leaves him in 2nd and 3rd with 2 outs against Marcus Semien and a 2-2 Fastball right down the middle. Right down the middle. Ripped by Marcus Semien into left center field. Jankowski scores. Taveras scores. It's 7-3. It's a 5-run fourth inning, and it's time for Davis Daniel to get out finally. But yeah, I mean, by then the game was over. The game was over. And at Ron Washington, of course, hindsight is 2020. It's very easy now to say you should have taken him out earlier. But in the moment, like I said, you hit a guy, you had a balk, you had a couple bad pitches. All the signs were there to get rid of him. I know it was just the fourth inning, but he's not an established pitcher. Get him out, get him out, get him out. He didn't get him out early enough, and it's a 7-3 deficit that the Angels would never overcome. Before I take a break, I'm going to read some of these comments because the comments are popping. Let's see. Jeff is talking about the losses. We saw that. Anaheim Angel was agreeing with him. Fud Alex said, what up? Davis Daniel hasn't been impressing me. Not me either. Other than that first start, he has not been impressing me either. Maybe that first start was a fluke, is what Anaheim Angel says. Fud Alex says, why are some people mad that Sano was DFA'd? He didn't do much. I'm not mad. You know how critical I've been of not only Sano being up. That's one thing. I get it. You want a veteran who, at this rate, no one's hitting. You might as well try him out. But try him out. Try him out doesn't mean call him up and immediately put him cleanup spot every single game, even against righties, and be surprised when he goes 0 for 5 with a strikeout or something. So I wasn't really that surprised. He's not great. He hasn't been great. He didn't even play professional baseball last year. We got lucky with Kevin Pillar, a guy that earlier in the year was DFA'd and suddenly is our best player. But you're not going to do that with everybody. And Miguel Sano, certainly, I'm not mad that he was DFA'd. There's a bunch more comments in this one talking about trades. I'm seeing trade Mike Trout from Angels fans. Okay, we got to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the offense. I'll read some of those comments, and then I'll let you enjoy the rest of your Monday night. We're going to take our last break here on the Locked On Angels Postcast. Finally, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Now, look, it's no secret. I love sports. I know you do too. And I love them so much that I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs are winding down, they already finished up in the NBA. They already finished up in the NHL. We're already almost at the All-Star break in the MLB. The Euros suddenly only have 4 teams left. Copa America's almost done. We're running out of sports. We get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers, not just new customers. A lot of, companies like to do that. Oh, new customers get this, new customers this, get that. No. FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer, because FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Back here live on the Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel. This is the Locked On Angels Postcast, and the Angels are losers. Once again, surprise, surprise, 9-4 the final, another 5-run deficit. They fall to 37-53. Still, thank goodness for the A's. Still not last place somehow, but very much now 5.5 games back of the Rangers we're playing against for third in the AL West. Remember that time, like a week or so ago, when the Angels had won 6 in a row, when the Angels were like 7 games back of first place? Remember that? Well, now the Angels are 5.5 back of third place. Never talk about the playoffs again. Never check the standings ever again. Please, please don't fall for it. We already talked about an awful Davis Daniel start, because boy, was it awful. We didn't even get to the top of the 7th inning where the runs kept coming. Carson Fulmer actually was decent up until that point. He had to come in obviously pretty early. He came in with 2 outs in the 4th. He ends up getting all the way to the 7th. But then in the 7th, he falls apart. He finishes with 4 hits, 2 earned runs allowed. He did have 5 strikeouts. He actually looked pretty good. But in the 7th, he gave up that 2-run shot. It's tough because right before that, he was fired up. He struck out Josh Smith after a leadoff double. He was fired up. He was screaming the second he got the strikeout swinging. And then Wyatt Langford absolutely unloads on a curveball that Carson Fulmer hung on the second pitch of the at-bat. And just like that, that feel-good, fired-up performance from Carson Fulmer is now a not-so-great performance. 2 earned runs in just 3 innings. But let's talk about the offense real quick. Then we'll read the comments, and then I'll let you guys get out of here and enjoy the rest of your Monday and stop thinking about this sorry baseball team. The Angels did have 1 inning one inning where you really were excited about this team, where you had the slight bit of hope that this team would maybe win a game. After Keston Hiura's strikeout to lead off the inning in the bottom of the second, back-to-back singles from Logan O'Hoppe and Brandon Drury, and suddenly it's first and second, just one out, and Mickey Moniak, not the guy I want up in this moment, but Mickey Moniak, here's the key, folks, here's the key, against a righty. Once again, Moniak against the righty. That's the only time he ever comes through, and he comes through here, a 0-1, really bad pitch from John Gray, a hanging changeup, but Moniak absolutely rips it. You got to give him his credit. You know how critical I've been of him. But 104.2 mile an hour exit velo. He rips it down the right field line. Adolis Garcia takes a really long time to field this one. I think he thought it was going to hit off the wall at 100 miles an hour, but it kind of just dribbles against the wall. We know that if we, as Angels fans who are always here, he doesn't attack the ball, kind of just sits there. Moniak gets all the way to third on a triple. O'Hoppe, of course, scores. Brandon Drury, of course, scores. And suddenly that 2-0 deficit is immediately erased. It's 2-2. The vibes are great. And Moniak is on third with just one out. Joe Adell up for a sac fly opportunity. Was I confident? No, absolutely. Were you? Probably not. The guy's hitting in the 180s. He's even worse against righties. He's the strikeout king. You just need to have him to have a productive out. I'm not confident, but luckily he gets ahead 1-0. Then he gets the fastball at the knees, exactly what he's looking for, on 1-0, and he rips it. 101.8 exit velo, line drive to left field, and it's 3-2 Angels. That felt really good. Unfortunately, the inning ends right away right after that because Luis Guillerme grounds into a double play on the very next pitch. On what was a good pitch, a fastball up and in type of pitch that Guillerme can easily line into right field, but instead it's a ground out double play, inning over. But 3 runs, felt good. Obviously, it disappeared just 2 innings later in the fourth with that 5-run fourth. And unfortunately, then the Angels offense, it's like they had enough for one comeback. You come from 2-0 down to up 3-2. But when you immediately go back down 7-3, this team don't got another comeback in them. We know that. They did not have one tonight, and they never really do. Just one more run coming in the 7th inning. And at this point, the game was already over. But you got to give it the credit. You got to give them the credit when they score back-to-back singles once again. Drury, Moniak, Adell grounds into a double play. Luckily, Mickey Moniak gets to second. Guillerme walks. It's first and second with one out. And the man that we're going to get to right now, Anthony Rendon. After a poor start to this game, some weak ground outs, 0 for 2 on 2 ground outs to start. He gets a hanging slider. He rips the liner up the middle, 100 mile an hour exit velo for that RBI. So if you were curious what Anthony Rendon did in his first game back from a 68 game deficit, something like that, 1 for 4 in the leadoff spot with an RBI. Certainly not great. Certainly not good as Shanuel has been. At least lately, he's hitting in the 330s in the last week or so. I don't know about you. You tell me if you disagree, but I don't think Rendon coming back means Shanuel needs to be out of the leadoff spot. I don't think so. I kind of get to some degree what Ron Washington is thinking. The Angels don't have many lefties in the lineup. I mean, in this game alone. Shanuel, Moniak, Guillerme, who normally Guillerme doesn't play, and that's Neto. So you really only have Shanuel and Moniak in the lineup against righties. You need a lefty, and we don't have any. So at the very least, I think Ron Washington is thinking Anthony Rendon can be just as good of a leadoff hitter. You can move Shanuel down one spot. At least there's a lefty a little bit later in the lineup, so it's not literally the first guy's a lefty, and then the 8th guy or 7th guy in this game in Moniak is a lefty. At least it's 2nd and 7th. It's a little bit better. Maybe if you can move Moniak up one, I don't know. But having lefties a little bit closer to each other makes it a little harder on the bullpen strategy, makes it a little bit harder on the righty as is. I don't know. Maybe that's what he's thinking. Maybe he's just trying to get Rendon as many at-bats as possible right now to heat him up. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But Rendon does okay in the leadoff spot. The rest of the lineup, not so great. Keston Hiura, 1 for 4, but he had 3 strikeouts. Kevin Pillar, 0 for 4 again. Boy, has he fallen off. O'Hoppe did have that nice single. Drury, 2 for 4. The average up to 182, but I think Drury's been okay. I think he's been okay. He's still heating up. And Mickey Moniak, got him his credit, 2 for 4, 2 RBIs, 2 runs. The average is almost to 200, but that's about it. Joe Adell obviously had the RBI as well. But with all that being said, let's quickly get into these comments before we get out of here. You can see me, maybe you can see me on the YouTube channel. I'm sweating. It's really hot where I am. We have AC. I have a fan, but I turned both off for the show because I don't want the fan making noise in the mic. I don't want the AC making noise in the mic. So look at me. Not only am I here after every game, unlike some people, I'm here after every single game, but also I'm turning off the AC. I'm turning off the fan. I'm sweating here for you guys. Blood, sweat, and tears into this postcast. I hope you appreciate it. I know you do. And I appreciate you. So I'm going to get into these comments one last time because there was one thing I saw that I had to address. First off, we have a Dodger fan in here. Los Dodgers, World Series champs, says, trade Ty Dog to the Los Angeles Dodgers now. Normally I don't like helping the Dodgers, but if you're going to give us the most for them, we'll take it. I don't really care. Whether you think the Angels really have a rivalry with the Dodgers or not is up to you. I think it is somewhat of a rivalry. I think it felt good that we were able to split a game with them at Chavez Ravine earlier in the year. But I don't really care. Trade him to the Dodgers. That's fine. If they give us the most for him, we'll take it. That's all we care about. Anaheim Angel says, only if you take Adele and Moniak with you. Yeah, I agree with that one. And that's even after a game like today where both of them came through. Yeah, Fud Alex, I agree. He said, I think you guys have enough. Let other teams trade. I agree. He says, here's the comment of the day. Fud Alex, you win it. He says, Anaheim Angels, they should take Artie too. They being the Dodgers. That folks, I agree with. Now, one last Trout thing or trade thing I saw was Jeff coming in here with the banger. They're not the banger, but the bomb. He says, honestly, they might need to trade Mike Trout. He deserves way better. It is sad seeing him in the dugout, just looking out there going, man, I'm working my hardest to come back from an injury. You know, it's no secret he's gotten hurt way too much as of late, but he's sitting there doing his best to come back, unlike a guy I know. His name's Anthony Rendon. Mike Trout working to get back, and this is what he has to work back to. A team that's 16 games under 500. It is brutal. Anaheim Angel says, Jeff, that would hurt to see Trout in another uniform, but he does deserve way better. But Alex says, I mean, you could trade him and for sure get a couple of good players just for him, but Trout will stop playing at the Angels. Yes, that's true. Trout would not be an Angel anymore if you traded him. Dodger fan says, if Trout gets traded, would the team that trades for him have to take on that crazy contract? Of course they would, because when he's healthy, he's worth every penny. Yeah, he's worth every penny. Jeff says it will be the Angels taking in the majority of that contract. I don't know the exact terms, I'll be honest. But you sure, whatever the terms are right now is what the terms should be when you trade him. There should not be any help, any financial help given to a team that would trade for Mike Trout. But guess what? I don't even need to get into this anymore because here's the moral of the story. It doesn't matter how bad this team is, at least in the near future, at least until Mike Trout says, I don't want to be here anymore, the Angels are not going to trade Mike Trout. And I'll tell you why. One thing, Artie Moreno. We know above winning, he cares about one thing, and that's selling tickets. And I say that because he doesn't invest in the hidden things that should make a team good. He doesn't invest in the good health facilities, the good trainers, the good, medical technology. He doesn't invest in a good coaching staff, in state-of-the-art technology during spring training, in practice facilities. No. You know what he invests in? He invests in two things. A couple stars, a Shohei Ohtani, thank you for that. And Anthony Rendon, no word can be said to say no thank you enough for that. But he invests his money in a couple of stars that sell tickets, and he invests his money into a bunch of beach towel giveaways and, beanie hat giveaways in July and slippers in July and June. That's what he invests his money into. And so what does Mike Trout fall into? He falls into one of those two categories. He is a star, and it doesn't matter how bad the Angels are. There will always be at least 20, 25,000 fans that will go to the Angel Stadium to see Mike Trout. And so Artie Moreno, even if it makes sense for the team to get rid of him, to get some guys back, even if it certainly makes sense for Mike Trout to get the heck out of here, unless he comes out and says, get me out of Anaheim, I don't think we're going to trade him. And I think that's just it. That's it. That is what it is. So we'll leave on that. And certainly not related to this game at all. But, we try to get creative on the postcast. It's not like I'm going to spend 30 minutes straight only talking about the game, especially when the Angels lose by 5 every single game. So got a little little fancy bit there about Mike Trout at the end, but for the most part, of course, talked about the game, of course, talked about another loss, another 5-run defeat, 9-4 the final in this one. Davis Daniel with a brutal start. One more time, just 3 2/3 innings pitched, gives up 8 hits, 7 runs, all earned, and that big fly to Corey Seager in the second inning. only topped by that 5-run fourth inning. A brutal start for Davis Daniel, a brutal stretch for the Angels. They just keep losing. Anthony Jimenez adds one final comment. He said, already needs Trout for the bobblehead giveaways. Amen. Exactly. I will say that Trout bobblehead at the end of the month does look pretty cool, but that's look at me. That's me, someone who just criticized him for it, falling for the giveaways, falling for the superstar. That is Mike Trout. So certainly if I fall for it, a lot of people are going to fall for it. So you're absolutely right, Anthony. And shout out to once again to all of you, Anthony, Jeff, even the Dodger fan, Fudd Alex, Anaheim Angel, Daniel Barry, and everybody else in here. Thank you so much. Please, as always, please help me out by leaving a like, leave a comment, let me know the question of the day. Will the team lose 100 games this year? A very depressing question, but the question nonetheless. So with all that being said, I'm Gavin Carlson. This was another Locked On Angels Postcast. Continue to make this the place you come after every single Angels game, and I will continue to pour my blood, sweat, especially sweat, and tears, especially tears too, with this team, into you guys and into this postcast. So with all that being said, Angels lose to the Rangers 9-4, but I'll be back here tomorrow night, hopefully after a win. And I'm Gavin Carlson. This was the Locked On Angels Postcast, and I'm signing out. Have a great rest of your Monday, and I'll see you here tomorrow.